And so now what we're going to do, oh, we have Michael. How are you doing? We are going to start with the DEP. You are more than welcome to stay, Susan, Terence, and Eric. But I think we are going to be joined by our colleagues from DEP, Michael and Cecil. Is that correct, Michael? That Cecil may join us? You have to mute yourself. You have to mute yourself.
Oh, sorry about that. We're going to be juggling our schedules a little bit. So we do have a conflict, but we'll try our best. I'll definitely be here.
But at least you are here. So thank you
Yes.
so much. And with that, I will give now the floor to our team. Michael, something that we are doing, I don't know if you noticed it, we are kind of shutting down the video because some of the connections may have limitations on the bandwidth. And we would like to focus on the sharing of the PowerPoint and the voice, if that is okay with you.
Sure, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. So do we have the group ready to share the PowerPoint, please?
Yes.
Yes,
Thank
Professor.
You. Okay, so who's going to share it, Honan or Sichi?
Sichi is sharing.
Okay, so Sichi,
Yeah.
go ahead. You have the group, and now we have Michael on the Zoom meeting.
Sure.
So thank you so much.
Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay, so we can start.
Okay, so hello everyone. Hope you are doing well. So we are from CBIPS group from Columbia University, and we are the water sampling data science team. My name is Yi.
I'm Honan.
I'm Siqi.
And we are going to present our process that we made throughout this semester. So here's an overview of our research project. First one is the background. There are some highlight points, such as the process of the water sampling and the water monitoring. And we're gonna talk about the machine learning. So we have how can machine learning help? And we're gonna show you our research and our case study. And for part 3, we're going to show you our conversation with the DEP and our models. And finally, we're going to talk about the conclusions and the future work and trend. So the first one is the background. So why is water sampling so important? Because water has a big impact on the environment, health, and the society. So water challenge is tied to the population growth, especially for those developing countries. And the water sector is severely underfunded, with especially serious financing gaps in the developing countries. As you can see the picture on the right, that's a report that we found online, which was conducted by the McKinsey & Company. So they are saying that by the time when it comes to 2030, with the constant improvement in water productivity based on the historical data, we're going to make up for 20% of the gap between the water supply and demand issue. And if we continually increase in the water supply under business as usual, we're going to reduce another 20% of the gap between supply and demand. But however, we still have 60% of the remaining gap, so which indicates that the water issue is going to be really challenging by the time when it comes to 2030. So before this semester, we had our conversation with the DEP. We went to the office, and we are really happy that we get to know more about the water distribution system and supply system in New York City. And here is what we found, the process of the water sampling. So the DEP continuously sample and conduct analysis for numerous water quality parameters, such as microbiological, chemical, and physical measures throughout the watershed as the water enters the distribution system. The DEP also regularly tests water quality at nearly 1,000 water quality sampling stations throughout New York City. In 2019, DEP performed approximately 456,500 analysis on 36,300 samples from the distribution system, meeting all states and federal monitoring requirements. They also perform a lot of analysis on the samples that are collected from the large reservoirs and the watersheds. So for the water monitoring process, they monitors the water in the distribution system, upstate reservoirs and feeder streams, and wells that are sources for New York City's drinking water supply. So a growing network of robotic monitoring stations provide another 2 million water quality measure last year, allowing them to optimize this operation of the reservoirs, support watershed protection efforts, and steady water quality trend. So next slide is, we found this website. The study was conducted in 2015. So this website, they gave the drinking water in New York City a grade of C. So the reason that they grade the drinking water in New York City is because nearly 95% of the New York's population receive water from the state public water supply system, and there are nearly 10,000 regulated water systems provide clean water to nearly 20 million of the New York citizens. But however, there's a lot of water improvement projects that are remain unfunded due to the overwhelming demand. But so the latest estimate of the repairing, replacing, and updating New York State's drinking water infrastructure is a lot of money over the past 20 years. And with almost half of the New York City's pipes put in place prior to 1941, it would take 100 years or more to upgrade its aging pipes at current replacement rates. But just like I said, the report was conducted in 2015, but I'm sure the situations is getting better. So based on that, there are already some states, such as the Washington D.C., they're already using drones to monitoring the pipes underground. So this is just an example. So we're thinking that the data that are collected from these high-tech machines that can be processed by using the machine learning. So we can use the machine learning to deal with the data we have collected, and we can build our model. We can train our models to look for specific elements that we want to measure, we want to predict, and we can also use our coding to fix the system bugs, and we can use our coding for business need.
So we will lead you to the second part of our research. How can machine learning be involved in this process? We put it in 5 categories. Machine learning can detect and correct the malfunctions of the equipment, detect the environmental anomalies, predict the effects of policy decisions, improve modeling and analysis of water data, and automate and control allocation and distribution of the water. To refine the statements, we will show you 3 cases that we studied. 2 are companies and 1 is research articles. All of them apply machine learning to achieve some functions. The first company is Aquatic Informatics. It's a software solution provider to more than 1,000 organizations around the world. Their selling point is they advocate their One Water, One platform by using 4 softwares they created, which are Aquarius, WaterTrax, Inco, and Toolkit. Each of the software has different purpose, but in general, their platform has accomplished the following: automate workflow, predict problems, correct errors, enforce compliance, meet regulations, and alert stakeholders. So why do we emphasize their features? It's because in this company's current workshop report, we found it's really clear to see their data processing pipeline. In the graph on the left, real parameters from natural environment are put into their statistical machine learning model. After calculation, the output could be anomaly detection, prediction, and uncertainty. This result will transfer to alerts or events in their engine and provides the service to customers. We choose it because their website provides us knowledge to see how machine learning be applied, and because this is an award-winning software company, and some of the advanced functions they are doing right now could be our next focus.
Yeah, okay, moving on to our second case. It is about the Locus technology. Locus is a technology company and which focuses on the environmental information management. And in this case, the company is trying to predict the pH value in the drinking water sample. First, they need to prepare the input data. And we can see from the table below, there are 261 blank cells in the Excel. So they clean these blank cells first, and then they make the data set usable. Second, they input the data to the machine learning model, and they train the model. Third, another set of data is input into the well-trained machine learning model in order to predict the pH value. And from the result, we can see the chart at the upper right side. A lot of predicted points fell on the diagonal line, which means the accuracy is quite acceptable. And next slide.
So this slide, so this is a research article that was conducted by Professor Jefferson Larios and Professor Mia Valerica. So the topic of this research is to import data mining technique for pattern extraction and model prediction of the water quality in water reservoir using different parameters and water quality index. The methodology they are using is based on knowledge discovery database. So this is a process that aims to extract important data from large data set. The software that are involved in this process is called Rapid Miner. So this software can provide an integrated environment for data preparation, machine learning, and deep learning. So in this process, to avoid incorrect data, they put the data they collected into Excel, and then they do a function called data cleaning, which is exactly what we do when we deal with our data.
Okay, then we are gonna talk about our plan. Yeah, next slide. So first, what we are aiming to do, in general, we want to predict one water sample indicator based on other water sample indicators. Initially, we input the training data set and the validation data set into the machine learning model to train the model. And then we use the testing data set to predict the indicator. So this is the general idea about our plan. Next one. And for the data we use, our data originated from an industrial challenge. A German company measured the water sample and provided the 100,000 training data and 32,000 testing data. And each data set has 7 variables. We can see from the Excel here. We have looked on multiple data sets and finally determined that this one is the most appropriate to use for this particular project based on the total number of the data and the types of the variables available in this data set. Yeah, next one.
So as you know, there are many parameters related to water quality. We can assume them as indicators. In our data set, which Honan just introduced, we have got temp, temperature, pH, conductivity, turbidity, SAC, PFM. And an event, for instance, can occur as a fluctuation. And in this plot, several events are marked in red as an event. And in our conversation with DEP, they provide us very useful practical knowledge. And after discussion, our team decided to select conductivity as our predicting dependent variable, and others will serve as independent variable. So conductivity is important is because it can tell how much dissolved substance, chemicals, and minerals are present in the water. Higher amounts of these impurities will lead to higher conductivity. Our goal is to predict conductivity. We will begin to explain our models to you. The first one is based on ridge regression. The goal of ridge regression is to minimize the objective function that you see here, which encompasses a RSS term and the term with lambda, which is called penalty. The formal term is the sum of squares of residuals. You can see it being widely used in statistics. It's a measurement of discrepancy between the data and the estimation model. The later term with lambda is called penalty because it increases the RSS. We will enter a certain value for lambda and evaluate the model. This is the coding part. As I just introduced, the first line is finding for lambda and second line is prediction. You can see the output from the first, this model, the first model we have, and we will show the arrows again later.
Okay, in our second model, we use the boosting algorithm. Next slide. In the second model, we use the boosting algorithm. So let's see how the boosting algorithm work first. A boosting algorithm combines the output from the weak learner and creates a strong learner, which eventually improves the prediction power of the model. What is the meaning of the definition? We can see the graph below. If we want to judge whether a person likes to play computer games or not, and now we have two models. In the first model, it uses two criterions to judge whether the age is under 15 and whether the gender is male. If a person can satisfy these two criterions in model 1, the person will be recognized as a computer game lover. But do all the under 15 years old boy love computer games? The answer is no. There are exceptions. So this model, the model 1, we can call it as a weak learner. The same story to the model 2. Using computer daily cannot entirely certain whether a person enjoys play computer games. So model 2 is also a weak learner. However, if we can combine the model 1 and the model 2 together to judge whether a person loves computer games, the accuracy of the prediction will be greatly improved. So the combination of the model 1 and the model 2, we call it a strong learner. Now we can read the definition again. Boosting algorithm combines the output from the weak learner and creates a strong learner, which eventually improves the prediction power of the model. And I think maybe now we have a better understanding about the boosting algorithm. Next one. This is the coding process of the second model. In this process, we input the pH value, the temperature, the turbidity, and other indicators to predict the conductivity. We can see the red part, we split the data set into two parts. One part is used to train the model, and another part is used for the validation. And next one. And this is the result of the second model. We can see the prediction results below, and we can also see the training mean absolute error and the validation mean absolute error, which reflect the uncertainty extent of our prediction. Yeah, next one.
So the third model is called the random forest. So the coding process of this model is really similar to the boosting algorithm. It's just changed a different way to calculate the data we collected. So what is this algorithm? So the random forest consists of a large number of individual decision trees. So the decision tree is another algorithm. So it can be used for solving regressions and classification problems. So each individual trees in the random forest spits out a class prediction, and the class with the most votes become its model's prediction. So the picture on the right, it shows there are nine small decision trees, and there are 6 of them. They come up with results of 1, and then there's only 3 of them as a result of 0. So that's based on the calculation of the random forest. The results will be 1 because the number 1 appears the most often. And the next slide. So this is the coding process. Like I said, is really similar to the boosting algorithm. And we calculate the mean absolute error and the mean squared error.
Okay, moving on to the comparison section. In order to judge the performance of the 3 models, we use mean absolute error as the indicator. Mean absolute error is the average over the test sample of the absolute differences between the prediction and the actual observation. From this table, we can see different models mean absolute error in different data site. In the training side and in the validation side, boosting algorithm has the lowest mean absolute error, which means it performs best in these 2 sections. And while in the testing data side, regression has the lowest mean absolute error, which means it performs best in the testing data side. And next one. Next slide. Okay. Besides the mean absolute error, we also use the mean squared error to evaluate the 3 models. And the mean squared error is the average squared differences between the estimate value and the actual value. And from this table, we can draw a same conclusion like the previous slide. In the training data side and in the validation data side, boosting algorithm performs best, while in the testing data side, regression performs best. Next one. And based on all we present, we also summarized our project, and we have some conclusions, and we also have some improvements. And for the conclusion, first, after comparing with other data sites like the NYC open data we found from the DEP website, we eventually choose the industrial challenge data because the overall number of the variables and the completeness of the data site was appropriate for us. And second, given 3 models in terms of the testing error, regression performs better than other 2 models we can see from the table previously. And we also have some room to improve our project. First, more feature analysis and cross-validation will be needed to further strengthen our conclusions and complete comparison among the different algorithms. And second, on the one hand, we shall see whether the model can generalize to other data, and on the other hand, we could apply other algorithms to our models. And last but not least, classification problem, which differ from the regression, could be our next focus in the following walks. Next slide, please.
So for the current trend and the future opportunity of the machine learning. So machine learning is currently being used to monitor water quality data, anticipate water supply flow, and optimize management of sewage treatment plants and desalination plants. For the future opportunities, we're thinking that because the environmental time series data can contain outliers, anomalies, and gaps. So our model needs to be flexible, fast, in general. And we should be able to develop good models for anomaly and fault detection for advanced study. And also, we can apply machine learning regression technique to predict even harder to measure metrics, which would require appropriate data set being available. And the last one would be apply deep learning and more advanced AI technologies. So here's our resource and reference, and that's all our presentation. So thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask, and we'll be glad to help to answer your questions.
Thank you so much. I really want to appreciate it for such a wonderful presentation. And since we have a guest here, our partner, Michael, do you have any questions or any comments that you would like to post to us?
A great presentation, folks. Cecil was here, and he just stepped back out again. You're all right. Water crisis is amongst us, and sooner or later. Actually, as we speak today, McKinsey and Company just wrote an article today about that very same issue, about water crisis and their predictions, and how companies and entities can help preserve fresh drinking water. So it is an issue. More so, how do we provide clean drinking water? And I think some of the models that you had shown in your presentation would certainly be helpful in how we detect these microorganisms for this clean water. Some of the companies that you mentioned, the platforms, we're well aware, certainly have other platforms that assist us in these detections. We are certainly interested in AIs and machine-driven languages, MDL, to help us further tell us the story and what actionable steps we need to take to provide clean drinking water. But very good, great in providing the challenges that we had. Obviously, we wanted more face time, but we didn't have the opportunities to do so for this term. But welcome you to come back again to present this to the stakeholders and gather more feedbacks and more comments from my stakeholders on my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. I like the framework, and kind of interesting that this information is also coming at the same time with the McKinsey report that you mentioned and the information that the students share. But I would like to ask you, and then I will ask the students to also elaborate on what do you think will be valuable for you from this research that we kind of provide you that may be helpful for what you're trying to accomplish at DEP? And then the other question is like, if we're thinking about this year was a little bit challenging. I want to thank you and Cecil to be able to come to Colombia and hear the presentation in Lyon last semester, and then participating now. But you see, with COVID-19, all the plans were affected. We tried to stay as close to the original plan as possible, and I want to thank all the students for their hard work and their flexibility in adapting to the circumstances and continue to work to deliver this research. But if we want to think for next year, what were some of the things that you come to mind in terms of what they could do to follow up on this, or the new fellows next year could do? Should we be this topic or another topic? So we just want to hear your thoughts on what else may be valuable to you.
Certainly, we welcome the continued discussions. Certainly, water is our business, but also helping us look at other opportunities. So, for instance, we just kicked off a project a couple months ago on how we could reduce energy in our plants, because our plants generate a lot of energies. So how can we reduce our energy consumptions is another key project that we just kicked off, and how the team's utilizing data and how data can tell us the energy that our plants is generating and what are some processes that we could replace with energy efficient tools or machines to help us conserve energies. So certainly a lot of opportunities within DEP, whether it's water or not water related, but certainly environmental focus for us.
Thank you. And this is something that I hope that Honan, G, Sichi, and Felipe take a note of these comments, because this is something that would be good to be added to the report that you are going to produce. Now, let me ask the students themselves that based on the work that you did, what do you think will be a good follow-up on this if we were to continue on this project next year, or based on the information that you have gathered to the research, if there is any suggestion that Michael should be thinking about in terms of area of interest?
Yes, Professor. So for our project now, we may have solved some maybe not like the technical questions, but for us, we don't have too much the background in the water or environmental engineering. So maybe we in the further works, we need some guidance about our direction. So what direction or orientation should we focus on? And I think the energy consumption or energy efficiency is a very, very good suggestion for us. And I think, yeah, maybe some professional suggestion from the experts or advisor with the water or environmental background is very useful for us in the future.
Certainly, we could certainly make that happen. Once the situation, the COVID-19 is over, I certainly welcome you to come in, and I'll line up the experts on my end to provide you more information, whether it's water, energy, or other environmental aspects within the agency. Whether you're a student or graduate, my door is always welcome to you and to all the students that's on this call right now. Please feel free to contact me anytime, whether you're a student or graduated. Always available and open to discuss any matters with you and all.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And this is something that I'm very thankful for you to participation and arranging for the site visits and the conversation with all the different experts, and be able to guide them and support them. And hopefully, if you are okay, we can engage in a conversation over the summer on what the next steps. We have now experience from this year. We may want to think about how do we modify the projects? How do we adapt to the circumstances? We may do this all through Zoom, because I don't believe that we're going to have as many face-to-face in the summer as we would like. But I hope that that will be okay with you, Michael, to engage in the conversation as we did last summer.
Certainly, I look forward to working together with you and the students.
Okay, so now I would like to open it up to Rick. Any comments, Rick, that you would like to share?
Just a few. I'll be brief. I was very impressed, as you were, as you said, by the presentation for a variety of reasons. Certainly, starting with an analysis of the problem at hand. The historical presentation, starting from the beginning of the relation to water supply, to population growth, to public health. How water sampling was related to not only physical and chemical pollutants, but to microbiological agents, issues of funding, for repairing, replacing, and updating infrastructure, and not having enough money to do what was needed at the rate that funding is available, how long it would take, benefits of technology, including things as cumbersome as drones, and obviously the emphasis on talking about machine learning, the firms that are using software to do things that couldn't be done otherwise as easily, and what's being used for, things as fundamental as pH analysis. What are the water quality indicators? Monitoring water supply, anticipating flow and other problems, optimizing management of sewage treatment plants and desalination plants, not to mention everything and more on algorithms that I'll leave out of the description. So that presentation flowed very logically, even if it divided kind of into two parts, the hydrological, if you will, the mathematical. How it relates to not just what DEP is doing, but starting there in a post-COVID environment. It's logical to assume that there is, read the papers here, the blogs, increased public consciousness about risk and risk to public health and risk of contagion. Water is as important as air. The irony of us being on lockdown because of airborne contagion, when there could just as easily have been a disaster scenario that was based on water supply. The importance of data in regard to, as was said before at prior presentations, real-time analysis of things that are going wrong, or that things are okay. How do we flag, beyond pH, things that put population at risk? We didn't talk much today about lead, but we have in the past, and the things that would open up the coffers, that would get more money flowing, no pun intended, into that repair, replacement, and updating of infrastructure, and how technology and data analysis allows for, through better management, the ability to do more with less. It occurred to me, after now 4 presentations today, rapid fire, 1 hour or less each, what are the common elements that pertain particularly to this one? And Michael, I think you were very cogent in talking about environmental issues and data issues. We were talking a moment ago to the Parks Department, who said they wish they had more data on things relating to CREL, and not just corrosion, but how code issues, safety issues relate to accidents, and risk not just of lawsuits but of loss of life. Environmental standards in terms of what we use to solve similar problems, or maybe dissimilar problems. I mean, think about it, what we just heard about, stepping back 10,000 feet, window replacement in historic districts, infrastructure like a lighthouse restoration, handrail selection for miles and miles of park waterfront, common feature is lack of resources, inadequate public demand or political demand or elected official response to a lack of relative demand, except for the post-knowledgeable people in the agencies, among those who understand the technologies and the risk factors. And absent as a disaster, whether it be Sandy or an attack or you know, situations such as we're in now, the difficulty of opening up resources to make something happen. How can academic analysis and the paper by the two university professors, one in the Philippines, was remarkable because it had a practical application. I think that's where I see this going, is how can the work of DEP be reinforced by applied academic analysis that talks essentially to management of technology in support of doing things that are underfunded. That is maybe the story in all four of the presentations today. All four were excellent. This one was the most distant from my experience and frankly from my understanding, but hey, I drink water every day. And that brings it home. And I'm so glad that DEP does what it does. And it would be so rewarding to think that there are ways that take into account technology that isn't otherwise being applied. So thank you to the team for putting that all on the table and better yet, putting it on the screen. Thanks. And Michael, thank you for being there today, and Cecil and Absentia for his time with us.
Thank you so much again, all of you. Thank you, Rick, for those summarizing comments. And so, Michael, again, thank you for joining us, and I look forward to kind of continue the conversation over the summer, learning from what we did this year and think about next year. I just wish you all the best with all the things that you are all doing and keeping all that water flowing, the best water in the world, New York City water.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. Good job, students. Be well, be safe, and I look forward to seeing you and speaking with you very soon as we continue on this journey.